All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, former President Trump's been making a lot of waves in recent days in his stance on Ukraine. Unquestionably, the pressure on the GOP base has forced his only serious potential rival, Ron DeSantis, to rhetorically adopt the same framing as him on Ukraine after Biden's most recent Kyiv. By a mile, it could be the most consequential stance of the entire campaign. A lot of this came together in the most recent video that Trump put out about Ukraine. Let's take a listen to some of it.
World War III has never been closer than it is right now. We need to clean house of all of the warmongers and America last globalists in the deep state, the Pentagon, the State Department, and the national security industrial complex. One of the reasons I was the only president in generations who didn't start a war is that I was the only president who rejected the catastrophic advice of many of Washington's generals, bureaucrats, and the so-called diplomats who only know how to get us into conflict, but they don't know how to get us out.
Okay, I'm really liking what I'm hearing so far. But is it true? The thing about Trump in 2016 is we had no idea what he was going to do. That was kind of the fun part. But with Trump in 2023, we actually do know what he might do because he literally served in office. Is it true he rejected the advice of generals and warmongering diplomats? Well, in some cases, yes. In arguably the most important theater of conflict at the time, though, he did not. He actually did the opposite. Let's take Afghanistan. Trump made a big deal about withdrawing from Afghanistan. He pledged to end the war. And the most consequential thing that he did in his first months in office was instead to accept the advice of the National Security Council, the generals, and the warmongers who he hired to send 4,000 more troops to Afghanistan. That move alone bought us 5 more years in Afghanistan. It eventually collapsed as a strategy when doing the exact same thing over and over didn't work, and he eventually negotiated the peace deal with the Taliban. Look, better late than never, I guess, but it's an important indicator. Then consider the theater of conflict that's most important today, Ukraine. President Obama took an immense amount of heat from hawkish Republicans for refusing to send Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine for their war against Russian militias in the east. This is before the invasion. Obama refused to do it because he thought it would make relations with Russia worse, and it wouldn't actually do that much on the battlefield. It was a key litmus test for Russian policy at the time. Well, Trump actually reversed the Obama policy in his first year in office. He accepted the neocon advice of the Pentagon and the State Department and greenlit anti-tank missiles to Ukraine. If you'll remember, one of the reasons Democrats impeached him was for implying that those exact missile deliveries might be connected to trying to dig up dirt on Hunter Biden. Belying it, though, is the fact that Trump actually did what Obama refused to do. He escalated the conflict in Ukraine on the advice of the generals. This is pure policy. It doesn't even mention that Trump consistently hired national security advisors like H.R. McMaster, Nikki Haley, John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, dozens of other neocons who outright disagreed with him completely, and in almost all cases, he deferred to their judgment while in office. Personnel is policy. That's the saying in Washington. But okay, let's continue listening to the video.
The State Department, Pentagon, and national security establishment will be a very different place by the end of my administration. In fact, just into my administration, it'll be a very different place, and it'll get things done.
Okay, again, I really like the sound of what I'm hearing, but does it match reality? The first Secretary of Defense that Trump hired was whom? General James Mattis, who consistently pushed for escalating the conflict in Syria, not withdrawing from Afghanistan, continued support for Ukraine, more confrontation with Iran. Eventually, Mattis actually quit the administration and resigned because Trump wanted to withdraw from Syria, and he didn't agree with that. So let's keep watching the video because there's even more irony.
We'll also stop the lobbyists and the big defense contractors from going in and pushing our senior military and national security officials toward conflict only to reward them when they retire with lucrative jobs, getting paid millions and millions of dollars.
That's a fantastic idea. There's just one problem. The person he literally hired to replace Mattis, well, it's got bad news. It was actually Mark Esper, who at the time he was chosen was literally the top lobbyist for Raytheon in Washington, D.C., one of the largest defense contractors in the world. And lo and behold, Esper did exactly what Trump is accusing people like him of doing. He consistently refused and stopped any efforts by Trump to actually withdraw from Afghanistan. In fact, his only criticism of Biden on Ukraine so far has been he hasn't sent enough weapons to Ukraine. Are you sensing a pattern here? If you're a Trump bootlicker, you can always find an excuse. Oh, he tried. So what? He hired these people. He's a grown man. Why did he hire them? His whole thing was hiring and firing people. In fact, two of the people posturing against him, Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo, literally worked for him and have both been beating the war drum on Ukraine. I get that if you're a Trump person, this is hard to hear. I guess I'm just one of those people who likes to see some of these things actually done. A hard and a tough lesson that I learned through the Trump years is almost all of it is just talk. Trump does and never has had the inclination or the follow-through to be a competent commander-in-chief or an effective vessel for policy priorities. Now, to be fair, it's possible he has changed. Many people around him, like Johnny DeStefano, they said it will never happen again, that there's a new plan where they're going to fire the federal bureaucracy and bring in people who have displayed total policy alignment with Trump. We'll see. I've heard it all before. You should remember Trump was literally so incompetent he couldn't get the travel ban done, he couldn't get DACA rescinded, he lost the census battle over the illegal immigrants at the Supreme Court, all because the people who worked for him messed up the basic legal filings. Keep that in mind when you hear him talk. I was excited once too. Some of this could come reality. Unfortunately, almost all of it did not happen. Here's the thing with Trump. I think the only effective
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.